Alright guys, today we're talking about how to glue up large panels for your woodworking projects. We'll go over all the techniques, including the I and O joiner technique, and a way to use deep reach clamps along with clamping cauls for the best results. Stick around. So this is a good beginner topic if you're a woodworker but you haven't had much of a chance to build large panels for projects like desks or tables. You really want to think about all the steps you need to take to come out with nice flat panels every time. And so we'll go over some of these pointers, including the I and O technique. That's a special technique at the joiner, so you can compensate for your joiner fence being slightly out of 90 degrees square, along with these deep reach clamps paired with cauls, and we'll use those to ensure a perfectly flat glue up. Now there's nothing complicated about the tools you need to do large panel glue ups. Some small F-style clamps, maybe a couple deep reach clamps, and then just some shop-made clamping cauls. And then you just run your boards across the joiner. If there's an edge that has an I, turn that inward facing towards the joiner fence. If there's an edge that has an O, turn that outward facing away from the fence. Consider subscribing, and if you find a topic that you really like, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That simply lets more people see the video. Get your grain position just the way you want and mark your large builder's triangle. And beyond that, give it additional markings that will identify it separate from your other panels that you may be working on at the same time. In addition to a builder's triangle, it may be helpful to mark the ends of the board. That way you won't lose your reference mark if you have a little more planing to do. If you were to just put pipe clamps on the bottom of your workpiece, you'd invariably develop a little bit of a cup. And so to balance out the clamping pressure, put some on the bottom side, but put at least one on the opposite face. And then you want to use a known straight edge to check for panel flatness. This is just a board that I recently ran on the jointer, so I know it's flat. I've marked the reference edge there, and I'll check it in a number of spots. New woodworkers probably make the mistake of using too much clamping force, and too much force on the glue joints does nothing good. And so remember, just apply enough force to close the joints, and then walk away. Then the final thing I like to do is raise the whole panel up slightly in the clamps. And this just takes the lumber off of the black iron pipes and prevents any black staining on the wet glue. So this is what our panel will look like eventually. This is going to be the top for a nice desk, but again, this panel is too wide to go through the planer, so I've got two options. I can either spend time changing the grits and drum sanding that in multiple passes, or what I think I'm going to do is just take this last board out of the rotation. We'll go ahead and clamp up this part of the desk first, and then I'll just have one joint line to worry about. We'll see how it comes out. I may be able to get away just hand sanding it. Get a couple nice beads of glue on. These are fairly wide panels. We're about 15/16 inch here, and we're going to finish up at 7/8 for the panel. So the small F-clamps do a good job of aligning the ends of the boards, but if you have one board that's not laying perfectly flat and it's giving you a little lip here, one quick solution is to use a pair of clamping cauls. Now these are lined with duct tape. You can also use clear packing tape just so it doesn't stick to the glue. And then use a couple of deep reach clamps to get the panel nice and flat in the middle before you go ahead and tighten up your main pipe clamps. If that doesn't come out perfectly flat, don't worry too much about it. All you need to do is adjust the clamping pressure either on the bottom or the top side to balance out that force. Perfect. You should notice a good wet bead of glue forming at each joint. If you don't see about this amount of squeeze out, it means your joints could be starved of glue. And by the way, never try to wipe the glue off when it's still damp. That can lead to finishing problems down the line. Instead, just let the glue dry most of the way and scrape it off with a sharp chisel. Then it's just a matter of sending that panel through the planer. Remember to send that fourth board through the planer as well. You want everything the same thickness for that second phase of the glue up. And then one more quick glue up, just like the first, to finish up this desktop. Alright guys, there it is. Some tips and tricks on how to get nice flat panels when you're doing large glue ups for those woodworking projects. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.